And back in the day, it was something that they used as a barometer. Same thing now when men talk. They want to marry nice women, women who are good, women who are faithful, women who will raise their family well. Therefore, they tend to stay away from, forgive my language, whores. This video is kind of going semi-viral. It's a feminist video, and I don't want to get into it too much before I mean, she's going to make my argument for me. I'll set the stage with, it's basically telling women that you cannot at all justify marriage as a feminist. Not gay, Jared. Let's roll the first clip.
Dress it up, subvert it, deny it all you want. Marriage is an institution that has curtailed women's freedom for centuries.
Okay, first thing, right off the bat, for those listening terrestrially, do you notice something? Right away. The woman she's mocking, the old 50s woman vacuuming, fetching lady. She's a fetching lady. The feminist doing the mocking?
Yeah.
Now look here.
Yes, yes, the trash Muppet from...
Shocking resemblance.
Shocking resemblance. Ad hominem? Absolutely, but it's okay because we're going to get substantive now. Let's go back. Jared, roll clip 2.
But instead of rejecting the patriarchal and outdated tradition, some feminists have decided to reclaim it. We may have progressed since the Industrial Revolution, where Mary Wollstonecraft described marriage as little more than a state of legal prostitution. But let's not kid ourselves. Even today, marriage is not about equality. It's about perpetuating male privilege. Being given away by your father may seem cute and romantic, but it stems from a time when women were seen literally as their father's and then their husband's property.
Okay, property? Like I said, we have to get substantive, but if women are property, you're a bad investment. The real estate bubble popped and gave us the nightmare that is you.
Depreciate so fast.
Well, you're being given away. No, women now are not getting married and being given off as property. That's not what's happening right now, okay? Something also important, she talks about the prostitution, the quote on marriage is effectively prostitution. Well, let me ask you this. When you sit there and you demand that the government subsidize birth control, when you demand that the government subsidize your sexcapades, personally, listen, you do whatever you want. You want to do pup play? I don't care, okay? I have a Vietnamese sex hammock. It doesn't bother me. When you demand that the taxpayer subsidize it, however, well, now I have opinions. And guess what? You want to talk about prostitution? You've just made the taxpayer your pimp. Is Steven Crowder going to have to slap a bitch? Roll clip 3.
The majority of brides still opt for a white gown.
Beautiful? Yes, indeed.
But the implication that brides should be virgins is both ludicrous and insulting to women. That a female who has had sex is somehow spoilt goods goes against everything feminists claim to stand for.
Right. Well, by the way, not the feminists who are on the movement now and supporting Islam. You see that all across campus.
Yeah.
Feminism and Islam, right? First off, I agree. It's horrible. It is horrible that in some anti-community, anti-women communities out there, Islamic communities, that only virgins are valuable, right? You're promised virgins in heaven. Saddam Hussein, Qusay Hussein, they used to rape schoolgirls and laugh about how they deflowered them. Effectively, you're worthless. They take pride in deflowering women. That's absolutely awful. Now, that's an Islamic thing. In the Western world, men weren't rewarded with virgins. Heaven isn't promised with virgins. Women aren't devalued if they're not virgins. Now, granted, yeah, for a long time, men did want to be married to virgins. That was considered a good thing. It has nothing to do with systemic oppression. This may not appease the feminist gods. The general rule was, it was nice to be married to a non-whore. Now, does that mean that if you're not a virgin that you're necessarily a whore? No, it doesn't. But it's a starting barometer. And back in the day, it was something that they used as a barometer. Same thing now when men talk. They want to marry nice women, women who are good, women who are faithful, women who will raise their family well. Therefore, they tend to stay away from, forgive my language, whores. But it's not the same as Islam, and women are entirely valueless. And also, they want to make sure that these virgins never enjoy sex, so they generally mutilate them so they can't experience sexual pleasure. But that's always surprised me. Guys who want the female circumcision to ensure they have no pleasure. How awful must your game be? How weak must your game be? You know, they're just telling them, like, no, I'm great at this. Too bad you can't feel it. Oh, I'm a regular Don Juan. You piece of crap. All right, let's roll the next clip.
I know feminists who've taken their husband's name because they say it's easier. Easier than changing your passport, email address, utilities bills and bank account details, I suppose.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is easier than all of those things. Particularly because in patriarchal, traditionalist times, I just want to explain this to women who don't really understand marriage because they don't want to acknowledge the advantages, and feminists can't wrap their giant fat meatheads around it. In particularly traditionalist, patriarchal times, as you mentioned, once it was done, you joined bank accounts, whatever it was, you had your male as your sole provider. In traditionalist rules, that's what women had. So you had to change your last name and bank account, and you never had to work again. Now, let's fast forward to today where that's not necessarily the case. Many women don't take their husband's last name. They don't necessarily join bank accounts. Sometimes they've made more. And they're not necessarily expected to be homemakers that they once were. Some of them don't cook. Some of them don't clean. Some of them, now, that's fine. That's your right. You can work instead and do those things, okay? So that's what we have nowadays. But they can still decide to leave the man sorry ass with no justification whatsoever in many places across the globe and take half of his stuff forever, for the rest of their life. So they can now do none of those things. None of the joint bank accounts, none of the changing the last name, and do none of the things that men tend to find attractive in a woman, right? Cooking, being nice, not being a whore. Women don't have to do any of those things, and they can still take your stuff for the rest of your life. So, yeah, I think you have a good deal. Not good, Jared. Let's roll the next clip.
It has formed the backdrop to women's oppression for centuries. And it continues to do so. Forced marriage, child brides and polygamy all show how human rights violations of women and girls all too often go hand in hand with marriage.
Okay, all right, listen. Forced marriage and child brides have nothing to do with voluntary marriage in the Western world. Okay, to conflate the two is just not fair. It's intellectually dishonest, which one could argue might be your goal here in the first place.
That's the game.
Now, I would agree with you. Muhammad had Aisha, a 6-year-old girl, married off to him, and he screwed the daylights out of her. To be fair, maybe when she was 9, Muhammad maybe only punched her and screwed her when she was 9. I think that's bad. Now, I married a smoking hot, tall blonde who I love, and she loves me. And we entered into a mutually agreed upon relationship. Muhammad raping a 6-year-old girl? Bad. That marriage, I would argue, good. You don't have to think so, but I think so. See the difference? Next clip.
It was not until 1991 that rape in marriage was made a criminal offence in England and Wales. And today, it's still perfectly legal for a man to rape his wife in 47 countries worldwide.
47 countries worldwide, for those listening. If you look at those, okay, look at the countries she names. Is there any kind of a disturbing trend that one might notice with this list? Is there any sort of a statistical trend that one might want to observe for causation? Anything that sticks out? Is it possible? Iran, Libya, all of them are Islamic or communist. The only one on there, I think, is Singapore, which is effectively a benevolent dictatorship. So let's ignore that. The problem is marriage. It's not Islam, where the founder of the feast, Muhammad, abused his wife. Now, listen. I know not everyone agrees with me on this, but I'm a big fan of marriage. I've talked about marriage, and I've talked about my advocacy for marriage. Now, marriage is not only the single biggest indicator for economic stability, growth, wealth creation, it's also the single most important indicator we have for health, happiness, longevity. These are statistically...
Children success.
Yes, absolutely. With children, married mommy and daddy is the biggest statistic we have to determine if that child graduates high school, goes to college, gets a job, is mentally well-adjusted, is gainfully employed, goes on to have a family of his own, doesn't go to prison. Same thing, you know, you may not like it. You may not like the idea of marriage, and that's fine. But if mommy and daddy aren't married, the likelihood of that kid ending up in prison, not graduating school, having behavioral issues go up an alarming amount. That's just reality. So feminists want to destroy, and this is the same thing with social justice leftists, and liberalism in general, it's stemming back from Karl Marx, destroy the institutions of marriage, destroy the institutions of capitalism, destroy the heteronormativity. Let's do away with that. Let's make people think that heterosexuality isn't any more normal, isn't any more of a majority than homosexuality or pup play. as we see now. Why? Well, the biggest enemy of leftists, of social justice leftists, is reality. That's their biggest enemy. That's why they want a silent speech. That's why they don't believe in mathematical statistics as it relates to tax plans. Their biggest enemy, the biggest shutdown argument, is reality. Now, I'm not just talking about liberals. I'm not just talking about all liberals, some people who can make economic arguments and they don't agree with the Laffer curve, and I understand that. I'm talking about social justice leftists. And so what they need to do is destroy the institutions that are reflective of reality. Marriage is a good thing. Heteronormativity is reality. Free speech is a good thing. Second Amendment is a good thing. Earning your own wealth is a good thing. They have to destroy all of those so they can create their new reality. This woman is trying to tell you that every woman out there who is getting married is effectively being sold off as property against her will, and once the honeymoon door closes, that husband has full license to rape her. Granted, in Islamic societies, that is true. I will give you that. They want to create these new realities so that you can all be as miserable as the bridge troll who created this video. Anyone want to believe that this woman is prettier, is happier than the pretty feminine-looking woman who puts on some makeup, who has a man who loves her, and who has kids who run home and say, "Mommy, mommy, glad you're home"? Anyone really want to make that argument? You think these people are happier? You think Shrigleypuff is happier? Do you think those kids are happier? You think those kids are happier in a household with the lesbian, boy-cutted butch chain gang from BuzzFeed? You think maybe those kids might be happier if they come home with mommy and daddy, curl up with some chocolate milk, and watch a heteronormative programming?
I would be.
I think most kids would be. But they hate that.
Am.
That's like nails on a chalkboard. Coming home to a mommy and daddy and watching G.I. Joe? Oh, that has to stop. And guess what? No one's buying it anymore. We are able to make arguments. I've been on YouTube, and we've been out there for a long time, for years, and people are starting to come over to this side. Things that we could have never said a couple years ago, people agree with now. People aren't buying your crap anymore, leftists. They don't believe you. And I think that's a beautiful thing, unlike the lady who created this video. Do we have Doctor coming up next? Hey, if you like this clip, it's taken from the full-length podcast every week. You can click that box down below to watch the full free video cast, or subscribe on iTunes to watch on the go. Click my face to go to louderwithcrowder.com, where we write plenty of articles, columns, and upset those who are easily triggered. Or click below me. There's some other video down there. I don't know what it is yet. Not Gay Jared is going to toss. It's probably going to be something ambiguous but uncomfortable.